introduction than they normally do here, because I feel that understanding what we're talking about and where we are is really important and really valuable to you too. So I just wanted to be sure you all knew where this area was, because it's really removed and further up towards Pakistan, the Rajasthan area, which Jaipur is just right there at the top, a cultural center. And that area, Rajasthan, has basically the old sort of prehistoric nomadic tribes who travel on camels, and just like everywhere else in the world, their areas being encroached upon and all of that. But part of their art is influenced by the fact that it's very desert, it's very arid, and so they incorporate all these colors and things, and they're very, very colorful, bringing all of this into their textiles. They use textiles in a lot of ways, because when you're a nomad, you can roll it up and go to the next place with it, just like Tibetan, tents and everything.
And it is your wealth, too.
Yeah, exactly. So when we look at it, you'll notice here's Jaipur, how close it is to Pakistan, and of course there's an influx. These groups predate the borders that we see. So some things, if you were to go to a museum, you might see something from Pakistan that looks similar, because that tribe maybe lived in that area. So this is the writing part, but just kind of interesting that this process has been around for about 500 years, and it was introduced by communities. It's very much a cottage industry, very much a familial industry. Usually the textiles are created by the males in the family, and so these all have a very, very long history. You'll also see it called Bagru style printing. Originally, obviously, the dyes were plant-based or mineral, but we'll see a lot of influx of a contemporary, more chemical-based dyes and colors. And here we can see the cutting, and one of the ways they do it is they'll paint the surface white and then draw the tiny little design, or they'll glue paper on that they've drawn on to the block. And so here you can see all of the design, and he's slowly chiseling away. When you work at the block, you'll notice that they work on the, not along the grain, but into the end of the wood. Most of the time you'll see that it keeps it, because if you were to cut it here, the pieces would chip away. But going with the fiber and digging down gives you a better hold on that. I don't have any here, but we'll also see the use sometimes of wire to create scrolly lines and things like that. These that you see probably predate 1965, so they're pretty old. And of course, this is what they look like. These are the field or the fill, and so we'll see a lot of spot designs. And if you're working, you can even, make your own and then just do the repeat on your own if you were to try to create this kind of process at home. Here we see the dye in a tray. A tray is usually on a cart or a table. It's next to the guy that's working, and so he just pushes it along with himself as he works down the table. So they'll do one color at a time and then come back and add the second color. A lot of the time, the designs are created so that the first color is the linear design, often black or your stronger color, and then they'll come back with the tint on the leaves and all of that as a second and third color as they work.
So the lighter colors last?
Here we've got the line, a pale blue fill, and then he's coming back with a darker.
Is that the same block?
No, each color's a different block. And so you'll find with ours there's no pairs. They've been scattered. But so yeah, if you look at this, he has block 1, which is the first linear, block 2, which is a pale, and then block 3, which is a darker blue.
Is it hard to align it?
You learn how it is, and so sometimes on the edge around the corner, you can see him guiding with his hand. You'll know exactly where to set it down. And you'll find as you work with these, you can do it. You can get pretty darn close because they work the design right at the edge. So as you set it down, as it goes down to the fabric, you can go, okay, I think I've got a pretty good match. So it's doable. Here you can see a brown, a pale pink, and a purple on that one. And here's the same design without all of this together. So chances are he did this as an example and then showed this all by itself. My guess is that group actually goes on top of that. More contemporary. So what I kind of wanted to then really quick go over the use of the borders and then the little fill areas, the little scattered fields that are often flowers or other little tiny details that you can pop in. And briefly, as I kind of mentioned earlier, we have in this region all of these other textiles. And I feel like there's a tie-in aesthetically. So I wanted to carry those with you too. And this is chain stitch or tambour work that was on a skirt. And here we have the little mirrors with the embroidery. This is a chain stitch or a tambour. The mirrors, if we look at them, and I'll grab one here, they're made of glass, and then the silvering is swirled around the inside of the glass ball, and then they crack it. So here you can see a bubble in the glass. So the real old ones, you can see that they are actually pieces of glass. They're not always perfect circles that have been broken, and then they use like a little sort of a blanket stitch around the inside. It's I've been told that this is sort of a symbol of water and rain. And this piece would actually probably go over a doorway. So again, you know, something that they could have very decorative in their house that would bring, you know, color into their house. I have another one here that is not as old, but again, with all of the red. And so you'll see a lot of red in the region. A lot of primary colors, especially on the older pieces. This kind of fill embroidery work is done on a lot of different types of garments. So when you're people that migrates around, these are things that you can take with you. So it makes it, you know, very easy. Now they're the same. Here we can see the chain stitch and the satin stitch inside. Another important one is the tie-dye and the bandani. Here you can see them dyeing the little pieces. And this is silk that has all of the little marks in it from the dyeing. You can see the little puckers there. It creates a very elastic fabric. They stick a stick in, wrap thread around it, and then they go on to the next one, wrap thread around it. So they don't tie and cut. It's a continuous thread, and very often when you buy them, they have not been opened. And this was opened, but when it was done, it was probably 2 layers. So if you look, these puckers go that way and these go this way. So we know that they made it like that, 2 layers at once, to really sort of save on your fabric use. So what is interesting about this with the little white dots is this is the origin of bandanas that we use. They were a trade item. And so you can kind of look at that and go, okay, I think I can get it. Occasionally you'll see a bandana, an old cowboy bandana that has the dots that are made to look, again, like this kind of silk. It says here the earliest ones they have come from 5,000 years ago. And we also know they were doing the similar technique in Japan and other places around. So taking fabric, tying it in some way, and then dunking it in water occurs really globally. But each with their own specific spin on that kind of thing. They also do tie-dye where they do long sausages and wrap it and then dye it, and that's often used for turbans and things like that, broader textiles. Ikat weaving is increasingly important too. This, one of the things about looms are often kind of like agriculture. certain types of looms can only be kept in one place, and that group is not a migrant group. The little backstrap looms are people who can be moving and going into other areas. An I-cot can be done a number of ways. Sometimes they take the fibers, bind them off, dye it, pull it out, and there's white spots. And when they put it on the loom and weave it, the cross threads are also dyed that way. So you get kind of that sort of a faded edge that we know as I-cots. So that's as far as I'm going to go with that. I'll show you some of the things that, and this is not old, it's just a tablecloth, but it has a very traditional look to it. And so here we can see the borders in the field. So you get an idea of the little spot field and then the borders, and you can see how they fit together. One of the things we're going to look at is how do you make the corner? And quite honestly, the corners are made, and I've got some classified ads, you know, the ones you get in your mailbox. I save them, and you mask it off. So you put paper down, put your print across, and then when you start over here, you put your paper this way and start it. So we do masking. We also can mask around here. So if you have a field design, you can put your paper right here, so if the block overlaps, you don't get any, fill from that other part of the design. So when we work, we're going to do a lot of masking to kind of play with that. This is also another idea. You can see their corner. There's the break, and you could see that this diamond shape, by the way, is an individual piece that he applied kind of as you go, and then the little squares around the back. So here's something very simple. This was a border on, sorry, somebody cut out the middle. We still get a lot of contemporary things. This is a 1970s skirt. This is about the age of our blocks. So what you look here and you see these, you're gonna see these in the blocks. And this skirt only has two colors. So it has the black and the brown, but you can kind of get an idea. And again, how they miter it. It becomes, once you notice it, it's like, oh wow, I can see it everywhere. Okay, yeah, I got it, right. How did they make that happen? That's how they did it. So you can create diamonds and squares. Pretty easy. These are not that old either. These are like Pottery Barn. But what I like about them is you can see by the back, they're really printed. So this is really hand done. And they're all, I think I got all different ones that I brought in today with that border in the center. This kind of a deal people were doing in the first class, creating borders and then putting something in the middle to make a tote bag or something like that. Well, you can kind of see it. These are more contemporary colors. A lot of villages have kind of gone into modern merchandise. And you'll see, if you were to Google the Jaipur block printing, you'll find some really nice websites where they're selling their product. And then they show you how they do it and what their workrooms look like. So this is the more recent fabrics to come across. Okay, I wanted to show you this. This is not India. This is Indonesia, but it is an engineered textile. And so we also see this where for clothing, yeah, and you'll see it in the Philippines where they'll embroider the front, the collar, and the sleeves. So you may have seen things like that. And they also do that then in India as well. You will have engineered designs. It means you can sell it very easily to a tailor, and he can have rolls of it in his shop, and when a tourist comes in, they can make you that shirt in a day because it's already ready to go. So that's kind of interesting. And again,
What are these things called? That are
This
all
is
already
a
all
batik, engineered
engineered.
textile. Yeah, and then this is
This is just on a computer printed.
my guess. They probably predates computer. I know this piece does, but they would set it out and then plan the fabric. Probably They probably drew it on the fabric and then had somebody and then they would copy that to sell. This usually gets sold to local tailors. Not too many people come home with the textile. And let's see what else we have. I guess for now that's pretty good. Here's kind of some test things. This is one student, and she wanted to point out that you really need. She was good. She goes, "You can tell us the class because you need to have this." And this is just a piece of fabric where you do your first trial for your blocks. And so these are the blocks that the class is using. A lot of them. We've got a border, little prints. There's some animals, some bugs. This is another piece with a border and then some animals stuck in the middle. We also found, as we worked, we had to learn how to work with the solution of the paint and get it right. In some cases, we take a brush, we'll turn it, like if it's doing this, turn your block over, and you can kind of spread it, or you can blot it, or you can print it first, and you'll learn to get it better as you work. I mean, the first ones people did were kind of, but once you get it going, you figure out how much to put on. And another thing that's possible, I guess this is the one, here it is that some people go back in and add color. So you could go back this is only felt pin, just to be quick. But you could go back with paint. If you go back with paint that has too much water in it, it'll bleed. So you have to be sure if you go back with paint, you've got a solution that won't bleed all over as you work. So it is possible if you look at it and you go, oh, it's missing color, you can put it in. The other thing you can do is if you are working on your own is you can get your textile wet and then with a sponge on paint or dye around the edge, let it bleed and dry, and then print your border over that. So you could pre-dye areas where you're going to put stuff in, and that looks really good too.
So would that have more of a boutique look? Or?
It just gives a kind of a glow of color. It depends on how you approach it. You could take masking tape and dry brush it and really keep it tight, or you could make it wet and bleed out. Depends kind of on how you're working. These are our trays with our paints in it. We're using typical acrylic paints. The base is just polar fleece. Little kind of polar fleece thing here. They got soaking wet, and then we squirt paint in it, possibly add more water, and then we can use a brush to even it out. So some of these, you can see how you can go back with a brush and get it nice and smooth. And the way we work here, or the way we're working here, is you can take your tray of color and you can take a block. When you get through, let's say you do 5 imprints of it and you go, I don't like this, it's bad. So you take it over, clean it in the bucket, dry it, and put it back. We're working with acrylics.
The block you're talking about. The block or
the block.
The block.
B-L-O-C-K, sorry. Yeah, the acrylic paints dry really fast. So if we can get them clean, this didn't get cleaned in time. So it's like that. But some of these, which have fine little grooves, are beautiful to print, but we want to be sure that we clean out the paint ASAP when they're done.
I'm sorry, one last time.
Yeah.
To clean them, you put the whole block?
Yeah, and scrub it.
You dip it in. Okay.
And you're scrubbing it, and so you can kind of keep it down low so it doesn't get on you. And then we have towels you can dry it in.
And these are just any type of acrylic? Or
Yes. I know.
And it works on fabric? It doesn't, it won't like peel off or
No.
anything when you dry
You're
it or?
not doing it. Let's go find her little sample. If you feel it, feel it. You're not putting it on thick enough to create a skin of paint.
Can you wash it?
And
Yeah.
it'll wash and it'll
Yeah.
stay in?
Yeah. You can iron it on the back if you're concerned.
Okay.
Iron it on the back, face down on paper or something,
To
but it
set
should.
set it really
Yeah, you could try it out, but these feel like they'll stay. They're not gonna go. Have you ever worked with acrylic paints? When you get it on, it stays on. You know when you paint your bedrooms. So yeah, it's pretty good. You can feel it's not.
Who painted
Pardon?
himself accidentally with acrylic paint, and it stayed his body and it stayed on for a football game. For
Yeah,
way
well,
too
this-
long.
I've got it. Yeah, I got it on my hands already today. So you can see we've got a lot for you to explore. We have fabric over here for your little samples. We've got some remnant pieces that you can use to do all your little sample pieces that you're playing with. You can just use little bits of fabric. If you want to do something that's larger, we have these bolts of fabric and you can cut it out. I recommend not getting any wider than like that, you know.
Do you recommend doing the edges first and then the middle, or do
Yes.
the middle first and then the edges?
I would do the edges first and then the middle, and if you're concerned as you work, here's a field right here. It's very cute, little paisley. If your border, if you as you go across, kaboom, 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 and you're running towards the border, you don't have this much left, cover the border and print. And when you lift it up, it'll be fine, because it didn't go into your border. Yeah. So doing your border first is, I think, really the way to go. In this chair here, hidden, are a bunch of just stupid ads and stuff out of my mailbox that you can use as your masking. Alright. So we're ready to go, guys. Yeah. Don't be afraid and just figure, okay, kind of like this, try things. Try things. When you're working, we're working on a resilient surface. The back table is neoprene wetsuit fabric, and here we've got a little really high density foam. So when you work on it, you'll go down on it, and you can push it, and you can hit it, and then come up.
So you're saying you can work on, you can put this on either, and it doesn't, you can either put this on this or put it on that? That's fine.
What I'm saying is, when you work, if you wanted this, I give you this information so you can repeat it at home. You want something resilient under your block. And that table has neoprene, this table has these. And so when you work, you're gonna choose either that or that, you know, wherever. So settle in, and if you need to register, which means mark something, we do have chalk here, and we have straight edges, in case you kind of want to make a little tight little edge. You want it to be half an inch from the edge all the way across. Go ahead and use this to create a straight line. Some people wanted to make straight lines.
Oh, okay.
And
You lost me when you said register. I was like, what do you mean register?
registration is when you put something, when you're printing something, you have a registration. In other words, you're keeping it parallel to the sides of your fabric,
Oh.
and each one comes in and interlocks. That's registration. Good point.
Sorry.
That's good. I forget that some of these have multiple uses. So here you go. You can play with these little pieces, and then if you get some ideas, we have bigger pieces of fabric. Are there any questions at this point? Tons of them, right?
Yeah.
Just do, okay, here it is. Do baby steps. Get a piece of fabric, go over, set up a little space for yourself, and then go over and go, okay, I don't know what I want to do. What do I want to do? I don't know, this looks interesting. What color do I want to do it? I don't know. I'll try purple, right? Go sit down, and then what you're going to do, I'll do it right now. So you can see what I'm doing. All right, so here I have purple. I'm going to go over here to my space, I've got a block, complicated, and I'm gonna kind of push it in with a bit. Gonna put it straight on. Bada boom. Okay, so that's what you're doing. But again, I might do that and go, okay, don't like this one. Right? It could happen. So then, if I'm going to change it, I'm going to go over and clean it off real quick. If I decide I'm not going to use it, just want to wash off the paint, dry it for the next person. Okay, so ready to roll.